Today we are reviewing sixth episode of first season called Monster. Why Monster? It has two meanings in our case. First is that in this episode we are shown how Demogorgon was contacted by Eleven, and that she opened this gate, this dimensional gate between our world and the upside down world, and it is because Dr. Bremer asked her to contact the Demogorgon, and when she contacted it, she in terror inadvertently opened the gate. She didn't want to open this gate, but because of this terror of meeting the Demogorgon and touching it, she opened it. And the monster is also the title because Eleven thinks about herself as monster, because in fifth episode earlier, she throw with her powers Lucas because of the dispute of her. So probably she remembered those worlds, she remembered them, and she thinks that there is a real problem with her, that she's really insane or immoral when they are meeting together, because in the last episodes she ran away from the boys, and in these episodes at the end they are meeting again. She is telling them that she is a real monster. So this episode is rather cruel, rather intensive. For example, we have the scene when Troy is trying to, in a way, kill Mike in a way by blackmailing him to do something, and Eleven interferes everything, and Troy escapes. But it was a very intensive scene. We see that Troy was a real bully. He was very jealous because in earlier episodes he was punished by Eleven in a he is full of hatred and grudge toward Mike. But this episode is also showing us that younger actors, that kids are playing really well their roles. When we, for example, have this scene when Troy is taking Dustin as a hostage, and he's almost cutting his throat and blackmailing Mike to jump off the cliff in the quarry. It's a really intensive scene. We almost believe that Mike will do it, and of course he did. But because of the 11, he floated, and he was rescued by 11 powers. But we see that this episode was really intensive. This whole laboratory experiments, we are not sure why Dr. Bremer conducted on 11 them, probably to contact, because these are the 80s, and in the 80s, of course, there was still a Cold War between United States of America and USSR, so basically bigger than today Russia, and so this is also the Cold War between two imperial powers. But in this episode, we see that Dr. Bremer is interesting what this Demogorgon creature is. She's almost demanding of Eleven to contact this monster, and she agrees, and she do this in a bath tank. But because of her terror meeting this savage creature, in terror she opens the gate to the upside down. So in a way, she is the reason why Demogorgon is in Hawkins, and why this creature is killing Hawkins dwellers. Of course, we have also very interesting part when we are Hopper and Joyce. So Sheriff Hopper and Joyce is the mother of Will. They are finding the mother of Eleven, and we from her sister we know that Eleven real name is Jane, but her mother is almost unconscious. She's like a catatonic state of life because of experiments of Dr. Bremer on her specifically. So this part will be important in the second season, and maybe even in fourth, and at the end in fifth. But here we just meeting the sister of the mother of Eleven and the mother of Eleven, which is catatonic, and we are not really sure if Eleven was born with these powers, or because the experiments of Dr. Bremer made Jane mother to create her progeny like that. Because for example in second season we will have another child with this kind of abilities, and in fourth season, which is even before chronologically before first season, we are meeting many of such adept kids, very prodigal and powerful with these kinetic powers as 11. But we are not sure. I'm not sure if in fifth season it will be fully explained. I'm doubting that it will be. So this episode is really crucial for us to understand also maybe why Eleven is talking so little. She didn't have any contact with the outside world, and when she is, for example, roaming the town of Hawkins alone, trying to get some eggnogs or some foodstuffs to eat, we see that she barely knows how to speak, how to talk to people, how to make a proper conversation with people, and how to behave properly in different situations. So these two plots for me are the most interesting. We also have teenagers who are trying to go to the upside down through other gates, because there is also some smaller gates when you can actually go to the upside down. But this plot, I think, is not as important as our young kids and as Jane's mother plot. And of course it's also interesting to see the development of friendship between Mike, Lucas, and Dustin, because they were having a grudge because of the behavior of Eleven, and in these episodes they are cooperating with each other, even though Lucas is doing something different than the two other boys. Because at the end of these episodes we see that Dr. Bremer finally finds out where Eleven really is, and that she is in the boys' home, specifically in Mike's basement. So this is the ending of this sixth episode. But in this episode fully we have a really thoughtful and well presented friendship between these young boys, like 10 or 11 years old, still very innocent, still like kids, cute and beautiful and adorable, and their friendship is also very natural, but very deep, with some reasoning between Dustin and Lucas. It's really interesting, and of course I would say that still, even though Troy is a negative character, he's a bully. And he will be even in the seventh episode. I think that his role as this nemesis of Mike and the nemesis of boys is showing us also that they were in a way treated like nerds. That for example, that the reason why they played Dungeons and Dragons was because they were not interested in sports or in music or in rock bands or in punk bands or something like that they just wanted to play RPG games. And I'm familiar with this concept because, for example, in the beginning of the 90s, I was growing up, and I liked playing computer games and also tabletop role playing games. And this subculture was also considered in Poland a little bit, or even more than a little bit, nerdy. So I understand why boys were considered rather losers, because Troy often called them losers, that they are really a losers and nothing more. And maybe maybe the one thing I have a negative critic for, is that this concept of Jane Mother will not be very well developed through Stranger Things. And I think this is crucial, because we for example, we didn't get answers till the end of the fourth season, how these children acquire their powers, if they were born with them, or they were taught those powers, or because, for example, their mothers and experiments on their mothers, like in the case of Jane Mother. So this episode Monster is telling us that, in a way, Eleven is thinking about herself as a monster, and in second season, Dr. Bremer will be specifically calling her rotten, something similar to being a monster, that she's rotten. And in this case, we know how the Demogorgon was unleashed onto our world, but also Eleven is asking herself who she really is, if she is really some kind of a freak, or she is a superhero. Let me know in the comments what do you think about this specific sixth episode of first season of Stranger Things.